have the same opportunity as everybody else. And I was lucky enough to meet Emil almost a year ago now, as part of, I was working for another organization, and we were talking specifically about doing this AI fundamentals class and training up a group of people to go out and train AI to a number of different people. And so I started working with Emil and his team in December of last year. And then I officially joined, I moved from the organization I was with, I officially joined him as a full-time partner in the end of June of this year, 2025. And I've been training ever since. What we've been focused on, InnoPower, as I said, is really focused on creating an opportunity for people to be able to be the best that they can be, right? Those people that don't necessarily get an opportunity and don't have the means to go out and really try and forward themselves, right? When we think about different groups, different parts of society, in different locations, that's really what InnoPower has been focused on, and they've done a great job at it. When I joined them, we were working with a group of entrepreneurs on the east side of Indianapolis. And what we did is we went in and we trained ended up training about 30, what we call certified master trainers. We trained them so that they could go out and train others. And as part of that, so we trained them, got them all trained up, and then they went out and they're each responsible for training about 20 people apiece. After they get their 20 people trained, they can go off and do their own training. You're going to see them all over the internet. If you see pretty much anybody from Indianapolis that's out there on the internet talking about AI, they're pretty much from my group, right? They're pretty much from the group that I was fortunate enough to participate with. And so we got those certified master trainers trained, and then they went out and they started training people. We've also trained a group of students and professors from Tubman University in Liberia. We've gone out and trained a group of about 15 folks from, sorry, my phone's going nuts. Trained about 15 folks from Gary, of course. And then we've trained 50 folks from God's Entrepreneurs. And God's Entrepreneurs is a group of entrepreneurs, Christian entrepreneurs, that are spread out across the continent of Africa. And so we've trained them. We just finished up training those folks about 2 weeks ago. And so we've really focused on how do we get this AI training out and to the public, right? How do we get it into your hands? And, AI, I'm going to get on my soapbox here and go on a tangent, but AI is really the great equalizer, right? It doesn't matter what job you have. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter your skin color, your hair color, whether your body shape, your size, none of that really matters with AI because you've got it, right? Everybody's got it. Everybody has got a cell phone, and it's on your cell phone right now. Whether you know it or not, you can have access to AI. It's particularly interesting to me because it's also accessible to our kids, right? As they're coming up, a lot of kids come up today. It seems like to me, being the old guy that I am, it seems a lot of kids come out of the womb today with a cell phone, right? They know how to operate a cell phone before they know how to tie their shoes. And, it's AI is going to be that great pivot that happens. Very similar. I've heard a lot of people compare this to, for example, when the IBM PC came out in the 80s, early 80s, when the internet really gained traction right around 95, 96, 97 timeframe, right? This is another one of those pivot points. And so we believe that by making this technology available and teaching people how to use it in a effective way is really enabling them to go forward and make that transition ahead of everybody else, to get ahead of everybody else, right? To be able to use AI to help better your job, your hobby, your personal life, right? And how using it in a way that's constructive. So that's what we're all about. Now, me in particular, Emil tells me that I need to explain what I've done. So, and give you some sense on background. Who is this old guy that's in front of you, right? That's offering this training for you, and what's his motivation, right? So let me tell you about my background, then I'll tell you my motivation. I have a background. I've got a bachelor's degree in computer science from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. I have an MBA from the University of Indianapolis, in Indianapolis, of course. I've spent 35, 40 years in the software IT business, meaning I've led software groups as small as, I've been in startups where there's 3 people, me and 2 developers. I've been in startups where there's been me and 15 developers. I've run development organizations as large as 200 people. I've managed sales, service, operations, all kinds of those things that go into software development in a global business unit, right? At one point, I traveled, at one little tidbit about me, in 1 year, I actually traveled around the world 3 times, right? I would fly to one client, fly on to the next client, fly on to the next client. And at that point, I was usually I started out in Australia and kind of went my way west. And by the time I got to the UK, it was easier to fly home from the UK than it was to go back. So I literally have been around the world 3 times in 1 year. So that's kind of, my most recent gig prior to this was I'm a part, and still am a partner in an agile consulting firm that helps businesses go in and improve their operations, deliver, to help them go from idea to product very, very quickly, right? And in a way that makes sense. So that's what I've done. That's kind of my background. Why am I doing this class, right? And you're gonna, I don't know how to say this other than to say it, but as you can tell, I'm an old guy, right? I'm an old white guy. So why am I teaching this class, right? Why am I hooked up with InnoPower? And why is it I'm helping InnoPower and how they go forward? And I'm not saying this for a pity. I don't want accolades or anything like that. But let me just tell you what happened to me that changed my life. And that it hopefully will help you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm so passionate about it, and why it is so important to me that each of you walks out of here with, not literally walk out of here, right? It's all virtual, but that you all exit this course with an understanding of how to use AI. So in 2020, what was going on in 2020? This is where you can unmute yourself and just kind of blurt things out. What was going on in 2020?
The pandemic.
The pandemic, COVID, right? So COVID is going on and the world is in an uproar. My business I had my own company at that point. My business dropped from about $30,000 a month down to about $5,000 a month in a matter of 2 or 3 months, right? So I'm panicked, I'm freaked out, trying to figure out my way through it. And then at the end of August, I'm walking my dog. At that point, I lived in downtown Indianapolis. And I'm walking my dog and I feel a twinge in my left hand on a Friday night. Now we all know we all know where that's going to lead, right? But I didn't know it. So then on Sunday night, I'm feeling like crap, right? I had shaken off, didn't feel anything else. I'm an old guy. I'm used to having tweaks here and there. So I just shook it off and went on. Had a heart, I thought Sunday night that I was having acid reflux, right? I'm not laying down on the ground, I'm not in pain. I just feel generally like I just felt like crap. So I go get up Monday morning, go get some acid reflux medicine. That didn't fix it. So Tuesday morning, at the insistence of my wife, right? I would never have done this, but she insisted. I called and got an appointment with the doctor, went to the doctor. They said I had COVID. I had to go take a drive-through test. Did the drive-through test, came back, it was negative. And they said, their first response is, oh, it's a false negative. You need to go to the hospital. So I go to the hospital the next day. Now, this is Wednesday. Go to the hospital on Wednesday, and they're running around in their hazmat suits, right? Everybody, I feel like I feel like I'm got some kind of disease or something, maybe COVID. And as they start running tests on me, what they find out is I don't have COVID, but I've had a heart attack. I'll fast forward to over the course of the next month, I went from, we're going to discharge you in a couple of weeks, to ending up on a heart transplant list. I was on a heart-lung machine. I woke up. I don't remember anything of the last week before the heart transplant. I woke up on Saturday morning with a new heart and in intensive care with all kinds of alarms going off. Because if you've ever been in intensive care, that's kind of what happens there, right? Alarms go off all the time. And so since that time, I have been going through this journey of what am I going to do with myself, right? The last thing I want to see on my tombstone is he worked hard, he died, right? I'd rather see he was a good father, he was a good friend, right? He gave back to his community. And so I've been searching since then on how to give back. And I always felt like IT was a good way to do that. Emil gave me that opportunity. He's giving me that opportunity to go do that. And so that's what I'm focused on, right? I am focused on how do I give back to the community, right? And the community in general. I don't care what you look like, what language you speak, where you live, what kind of baseball hat you wear, what football team you follow, although I'll admit, if you don't follow the Colts, you got to wonder about you. But anyway, I don't care, right? We're in this to help improve things and help improve people's lives. And we want to improve those folks' lives that need it, right? I mean, my kids all have access to AI today, right? And they use it and they can go and do it. But not everybody has access and not everybody knows how to use it. And so that's what this class is about. This is about helping you explore AI. I'm going to tell you, you're going to hear me say time and time again, you know what? That's a good question. You should ask AI that, right? I am going to push you into AI. You're going to do things with AI that maybe you thought about, but you're going to do them in a different way. And I hope that you'll enjoy this journey that we're going on together. So let's talk about the class. We're going to be doing 3 2-hour sessions. A total of 6 hours over the next 3 days. Once we get done with those 3 days, you're going to go ahead and continue to work in your workbook. I'm going to, Belanle, my admin, is, and my partner, she's more my partner than she is my admin, but Belanle will be sending out an email after this class. She'll be sending you the workbook. I'll be referencing the workbook in terms of your activities. You'll have the 6 hours that we've got together over the next week. And then you've got through January 1st to complete the activities in the workbook and create your capstone project. This is a 12-hour class. And so to try and accommodate y'all, what we did is we said, let's break it down into the 6 hours of actual training. And then we're going to give you homework and let you do that over the holidays on your own. right? Let you go through and do it and work on it. And then we're going to have a meeting to get together the first week of January. We're going to talk about what you did. You're going to have to submit your homework to me over the break. And then we'll go through it. We'll walk into that the first week of January. We'll walk into that meeting, and we'll do any follow-up questions. We'll do any discussions you want to do, anything like that. If you complete all the work and you attend, you do 6 hours worth of training, whether it's in these sessions or in the or it's in the YouTube videos that we're recording this. We'll take those YouTube videos, we'll put them out on a playlist that you'll be able to go and make up the time if you miss one of these sessions. If you do all that, then you're going to be considered, you're going to pass the AI fundamentals piece. A number of you may have the opportunity to continue on and become AI specialists with us and certified master trainers. What that means is that after also in that first week of January, after we meet with you, we're going to have another meeting where we're going to kick off the second 12 hours of prompt engineering training. It's more focused on technical aspects of prompt engineering. It's more focused on, my nose itches, it's more focused on how the AI really works so that you can go in and you can actually go through and teach AI to other students. We follow that up with, if you're not an educator, we also follow that up with 24 hours of facilitation training. I try to make this more about facilitation than I do just doing PowerPointing you to death. Though in this I'm compressing 12 hours worth of a 12-hour class, I'm compressing those PowerPoints or those times I'm talking down quite a bit. So there's going to be a little bit more in this 6 hours. But that's what we want to teach you about, is how do you go about setting up your training? How do you go about setting up your scheduling? How do you deal with difficult people, right? We all know they're out there. I guarantee you're going to come across, if you go into the AI specialist program, you're going to have people that are going to come up that are going to be in your class that are doubting. They're going to doubt about what you say. They're going to challenge you. You're going to end up with, you may end up with the so-called know-it-alls that think they know everything about AI. And how do you deal with those, right? I've been doing this a long time. And so for me, this is easy. I mean, I don't even hardly need the slide decks anymore to talk about what we're going to do. But for you, it's going to be interesting, right? Because you're just really stepping into this world that is always changing. So I'm really excited about, taking it to those of you that are going to take it to the next step of becoming an AI specialist, certified master trainer. So I've been rambling on now for about 20 minutes. I'm going to stop for a second, take a drink of coffee, and ask you what kind of questions you might have.
So I have a question. Hi, Chris. Thank you for all the background
I'm
information.
interested. I just hate to interrupt, but you're the one that's showing up on my screen in the big box. It's almost as though I'm looking at you, and it's almost as though you could see me looking at you. So go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm excited to be here. I actually met you in the elevator one day, and I was like, I'm going to find you and take this class. So I'm really excited to be here. One of the things I was wondering about the capstone project, I'm one of those people that likes to plan ahead, and I know we have the holidays coming up. What is expected as an outcome for that?
That's a good question. So what we're expecting out of that is, my capstone, and you'll see it in the workbook. The capstone project typically is a book, right? I can't tell you the number of people that I've met that say, "Oh, I've got this great idea for a book." Well, here's your opportunity, right, to go and do that. We've had several people publish. We've had a lot of people write their books and use them as handouts. We've had several people publish. We had a signing party last week for Joy Mason, who was in our class. She's taken it to the next step and had it published. Adele Means has also is also getting his. He wrote his book about a framework that he created. So he's actually getting his framework trademarked and then going to publish his book, right? I've had people write. I've talked to folks at one of the school systems there in Indiana, Clinton Central, and one of the ladies wrote a book, a kid's book she's an educational, or she's a K-6 teacher, and she wrote a book for second and third graders about touching and how to touch appropriately and those kind of things, right? And she's going to share it with her kids. I've had people write grants. I've had people write presentations. I want you to go out and take this project, this capstone project, and make it something that's meaningful for you. If you're a grant writer or you want to write a grant for something, do that. If you want to lay out a framework for how you might transform businesses, right? Or you want to lay out a framework for how to best manage your time, right? If you want to write a book about Al Jolson or Maya Angelou or Barack Obama or George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, whatever, right? The whole idea is you're going to do something that's meaningful for you. And the reason I do that, and the reason I encourage you to pick something that's meaningful, not just to appeal to me, but something that's meaningful for you, is that if we do that, if I do that, if you choose something that's meaningful to you, odds are you're going to finish it. Odds are you're going to get to the point and you're trying to figure out how to take AI and transform it and use it as a thought partner to get you where you want to be, right? It's not AI. You're just not going in and saying, write an email or write a book and you copy and paste it. We want to make it you. I'm going to talk a lot about human-centered AI, right? Everything we do should be human-centered. AI should not be able to just run amok, right? We want it to be, I want you to be the thought partner. I want you to be leading the effort. I want you to be the one who is coordinating it, right? Telling it what you want. You may use it to help you review things and to write content, right? I use it to write content all the time, but it's always at my direction. It's always at I don't just say write a book. I actually go through a number of gyrations and iterations on what's the outline? What do you think? What's the market looking for? What's the top books, right? I go through and try and use it as a tool to be able to help me and aid me. I'm currently doing some consulting in a large pharmaceutical company headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana. So you can probably guess who that is, right? I'm using it there to help me to go through and take all the chats that are going on in our group, all the stuff that's going on in Jira, and combining it together to be able to use as input for a roadmap, right? But I'm still the one looking at it and managing it and telling it what I want to do. That's what I want you to do in your capstone project. That's a long answer to a pretty short question, wasn't it? Yeah. Sorry about that. I get going sometimes. I don't have my cheaters on. Let's see. Tamika, you've got your hand up, I think.
Yes. Good morning, Chris. My question is, what does support look like while we're working on our project and even after we complete that first week of January? What does support look like?
Define support.
If we feel like we're trying to utilize it, but maybe not optimizing the functionality, and we want to maybe tap in and ask some questions to be able to expedite or better use the functionality? What does that support look like, or access to some kind of support?
So you're looking, so you're what you're really asking is, what, am I going to be available over the holidays? Have
And
I
I
got
said
that right?
even after the program, even after the first week in
Well,
January, what does that look
okay.
like?
So let's talk about that, right? So during the holidays, I will try to throw together some times where I'm available. I'm kind of lucky in that, I say lucky, it's not really luck, it's unfortunate, but my grandkids all live in the UK. My two grandkids live in the UK. My kids that live here don't have any kids. So it's basically me and my wife. And so I have time to do things. And she understands that this is it's kind of a job and a hobby. I really like what I'm doing. So I will create some times. When we get into next week, I will create some times for you to be able to ask questions, right? And typically those are office hours. What I'm also working on is we're working on creating a website. Um, I say a website, it's not really a website, but a community platform. It will be at the web address community.innopower.ai. And it will be a platform where after this training, I'm hoping to roll this out at the beginning of January as well. And in that platform, you'll have access to not only me, but you'll have access to other people that have joined that platform. I've trained approximately 100 people. Those 100 in just the last 3 months. Those 100 people are now out and they are training. Some of them are training people. My master trainers are out there. So we have a group of about 700 people that we want to bring into this community. And so what I want to do is make that available to you. And then also, if you decide you want to go into the master trainer program, we start the final meeting for this program is on, I want to say the 7th. And on the 8th is the kickoff for the next 12 hours of master trainer toward the master trainer. So we will be around. We're not going anywhere. We have really worked hard to try and create that community. And that's what InnoPower is. InnoPower is really a community of 300 businesses, originally 300 businesses that are primarily focused on supporting African-American businesses. And so we're expanding, we're using that same model to support from an AI standpoint. We want to create a community of AI folks where we can participate, but you can also learn from other people, because my opinion is some of you probably know more about AI than what you would initially tell people. And then as you gather experiences, sharing those experiences is going to be a lot more valuable than listening to me drone on, right? Or asking me my opinion. So that's what we're trying to do, is build that community up. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Cherry Jones, and I have a question for you. I was enrolled in the class that started back at the end of September,
Yes, ma'am.
and I attended the first two and the last two. I missed the middle two. Had to go out of town on a family emergency, and
I
and
remember.
did not complete those. Now, is this the same class?
Yes.
Okay, so
But
um,
so in your specific case, um, you can go out and do you have the link for the YouTube channel we created for that?
yes, I do.
Okay, go out there and watch those two videos for the classes you missed, and then complete your book, and you're good to go.
Okay, but it's okay if I just stay in on it because I probably need the refresher to have the flow, and I really enjoyed it. So it's only going to help me. But I just wanted to make sure this was the same class and not the master class, and and get all my stuff mixed up. So okay,
No.
it answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, the master class will be we'll start that actually the 8th. And I would like it very much. I can't, I know Shanita is on the phone, or on the call here, but I would like as many of you that want to go through the master training, I'd love for you to do that. There's only one requirement, right? You go through and you complete the training. We're providing it for free. And all you have to do is train 20 people in a 12-hour class. It could be your grandmother, it could be your kids, it can be your people at church, right? It could be friends, it could be, you're doing it for your business partners or the business. We want to democratize the AI. So that's really what this is about. So if you want to go on, feel free. If you want, Jerry, if you want to stay on, absolutely, right? If you've got some insights, and they would much rather, I think the group would much rather hear from you than me. So if there's anything that comes up that you want to share, absolutely, feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What other questions do we have? None? Okay, let's see how many we've got. Okay, so we've got 15 folks here. Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you, for those of you that have been in this before, this will look familiar to you. So it is, I want to say it's right here. Yeah, maybe it's right there. Where is it? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to go here. Not there. I'm going to go here. Let me see. That thing is in the way. Sorry, I only have one screen here, and that's not a good one. That's not it. Get out of that. That's the problem with working on a laptop, right? It's a pain in the butt if you only have one screen. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So I'm at InnoPower.ai. You should be able to get to that. And what this is I created this, and I have been enhancing it ever since. It is a platform that we use to democratize AI. So it is, as a member of this class, you can go out and you can sign up you can sign up. All we need is your email, and then you set your passwords and you're good to go. Once you get in, you will have, I'll go ahead and log in. Not now. Get out of that. Okay, so once you log in, you're going to see this screen. And this is just the home page, right? This isn't anything that's really that great. We list, there's a section that says our products, and these are all the things that are available. And you can see it only displays 4, but if you scroll, you're going to see more, right? You're going to see all the things that are available in this tool. If I go back up here and click Get Started, it brings up this left-hand menu, right? And this is created for you to be able to use in your class. and to use as you need to. Now, if you already have your own ChatGPT subscription, or you're using Claude, or you're using Copilot, if you're using any of those and you got your own subscription, feel free to use those, right? That's okay. We're providing this so that you can see, so that those people that don't have those subscriptions can get access to the master, the top end paid type features, right? You don't get every single feature, but you get enough that you can be able to use it and be able to do your homework, to do it for your personal life, to use it for however you want to use it. We don't charge for this while you're in the class. I'm sure this is being recorded. I have yet to turn anybody off on this. Even after the class, I leave it out there so that you can use it. At some point, we're talking about after class, we might charge for it, but right now it's for free. And you'll see that there are a number of things that are here. There are, these are menus right here. These are drop downs. You can click it and you can find a series of tools, right? If you can find, here's some AI tools I've created. Here's some info type things for you to look at. And more importantly, here are the chat models, right? So what are the chat models? The chat models are the thing the thing that you use to get to AI. It's called generative AI, right? And so you can go in here and you can go click on OpenAI GPT-5. That is Chat GPT, right? You can go in and you can use that. There are some other ones that we've got in here. Here's Claude 4. I haven't updated it for the new Claude yet. There's another one just came out. But you can go in and use these other ones too. And you can use them for free. As I said, you can use them however you want to use them. And so that is, so that's what it is. That's what this is intended to be. You'll see that if you go in and explore, you'll see that I built some things in that are kind of interesting, right? For example, you can go in and have a conversation with a prominent African American, right? And there's 15 of them that I've got in there that are historical from the standpoint of, they're historical people that are famous. So let's see, I'll give you an example. Who can I talk to? Takes a minute. Okay, so there's 15 people that you could talk to. Who would you like to talk to? Right? Let's say we're going to talk to, somebody I've not ever talked to when I was testing this was John Lewis. So, and now it will go and it will start creating a conversation, right? It will ask you questions. Before we jump into the conversation, can you please tell me what grade level you are? I'm going to say I'm 6th grade. This is one of the great things about AI, right? One of the great things about it is that you can tell it what level you want to talk to, right? So you can say, I'm in 6th grade. I want to talk to you like I'm in 6th grade, or I want to talk to you like I'm an adult. Does anybody know what the advantage of doing that is? Why is that? Why do I think that is important?
Because you get information closer to the level of understanding.
Yeah, you get information closer to the level of understanding, right? So if I am a PhD student, I can get it at my level. If I am a parent and I have my child has homework, right? I mean, I've got a computer science degree. I've got a master's in business administration. I understand calculus. I went through calculus classes, all kinds of computer classes, and all kinds of stuff like that. How much of that do I really remember? Not very much. So when my daughter's going through calculus class, when she went through, it was tough on me because I thought I knew it, but I didn't remember it. What if I hadn't done that? What if it was a new class I hadn't been through? I, as a parent, can go in and say, okay, explain this to me like I'm a sixth grader. And it will do that. It'll drop to the level you're at. So it's important that you think about that, because as you know, as people who are using AI for specific things, like, for example, we might be writing a blog post, we might be writing a grant proposal. Who's your audience? Who you're writing it for? Are you writing it for are you writing a you know, a 6 to 8 year old, you know, you're writing a book for them? Or is it a graphic novel for a high school kid or for an adult? Or are you writing something, are you writing a grant proposal for, you know, to go into Sycamore, right? The Sycamore Foundation. Are you writing a grant to go into IU Health? Are you writing a grant for the city of Gary, right? Your audiences are different. They understand different things. They speak different languages, right? One of the big complaints about software development and tech over the years is you've got all your own buzzwords, right? You've got all your own things that you say. And I don't understand what those things are, right? So you can say, explain to me how a computer operates as though I'm a fifth grader, and use the analogy of Legos. And it will create a explanation for you on how a computer works, you know, in the format of Legos, right? Imagine being able to say, all right, now we're going to talk to John Lewis, right? And he grew up in the South. To start with, what would you like to hear about my childhood and what inspired me? Would you like? So I'm going to say, yeah. So it's going to go through, and it's now going to put it in the language that I understand as a sixth grader, or as I understand as a first grader, right? It can adapt what it's doing to me based on what I put in. So it begins to know me, right? It begins to understand me. So I spend less and less time trying to focus, you know, trying to get the right answer, because it begins to build up a history of me. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing from the standpoint, it short circuits my time, right? It makes it very quick. It understands what I'm talking about. If I took you over into Claude, I have a subscription for Claude. And if you went over there and you asked it, I ask it to do something, it knows exactly what to go do, right? Create a worksheet for an AI fundamentals program focused on ethics, and it will create one for me because it knows what I'm looking for, right? So that's a good thing. What's the bad thing about that? This is where you take yourself off mute and somebody answers the question.
So the more information you give AI platforms, the less it is dependent upon human input.
Yeah, it begins to know you, right? So that's a good thing. But the bad thing is that when you ask it something, you may be looking for something different. And it may give you what you've been looking for in the past. The best analogy I can use is think about the algorithm in LinkedIn or Facebook, right? Or in social media, Instagram. What's in your feed typically? Things very similar to what you've been searching on, that you've been viewing, that you've been engaging with. If you're, for example, if you're very much a left-leaning, in terms of politics, you're left-leaning, you're going to get a lot of stuff that reinforces left-leaning. If you're right-leaning, you're going to get stuff that's going to more than likely lead you down the path of becoming further and further right-leaning, right? That algorithm, those fundamental algorithms are part of this. So it's great that it gets to know you, but it's not great when it doesn't when it automatically assumes and only presents you selected data, right? So you're going to have to be able to tell it what it is you want, and you're going to have to include the assumptions that are in your head, right? So that if you want something different, you're going to have to tell it you want something different. So as you can see here, you know, what this came back with is it came back with a conversation. So, you know, in this particular case, if you're an educator, imagine being able to talk to John Lewis and talk to him about going, you know, about his life and career, right? Imagine being able to talk to him about how he essentially grew up as one of the leaders of the civil rights movement in the 60s. You now have the ability to do that. Not only do you have the ability to do that, you have the ability for your, you know, for younger people to do that, because you can go in and say, I am a third grader, or I'm a fifth grader, or I am a high school student, right? You can ask John, you know, you can put out opinions and say, take on the role of John Lewis and look at this and see how this particular policy from the federal government might be impacting equal rights or voting rights or whatever, right? You can now get a different perspective by having this that you couldn't get in the past. In the past, you'd have to go find somebody with a different perspective and say, here, read this, right? Now you can have AI take on a different role, right? And it can help you go do that.
Chris?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So this information that this AI has on, say, John Lewis, did it come from did the AI go out into the wide world of information and it pulled all of that, or was this information created and put in this particular chat so that it's only using the information by the author of this particular chat, or does the AI go out into the wide world and pull it itself?
The answer to that is yes. All the above, right? In this particular case, the instructions I gave the AI were that the AI was to be this individual, right? And so, you know, when it goes out, if you think about the internet for a second, right? The internet is this big, massive thing, billions and billions and billions of pages, right? That are out there. And what do these companies, when they're developing these AIs, what do they use? They're not going to go out and pay various authors for, you know, using their material. They're not going to go get books on John Lewis. They're not going to pay the rights. They don't pay the rights to go take the contents of a book from John Lewis and build it in here. What they do is they go out and they take all the data from the internet and they go through and they clean it, right? Meaning they get rid of duplicates and they get rid of all the junk that might be out there that's worthless. And then they go ahead and they start training the models, right? So the models themselves are trained on the generic data. You or me, depending on who's using it, will determine whether you use the internet itself and its own generated data, or whether you point it at a specific thing, right? So you could point it, if I had written a book on John Lewis, I could point this at that book and use that as a reference. If John Lewis has a website with information, I could point this AI at John Lewis's website and say, use this as your source. What I did in this case was I said, just use the internet. So what is that? That leads me down a path of AI. We're going to talk a lot about AI ethics on probably tomorrow toward the end. The last hour, I think, will be AI ethics and copyright. But let's jump ahead a minute here. What does that what's the bad part about using the internet? Jerry, I think it was you that asked the question, right? So what do you think
Right.
the bad part about using the internet is?
Well, now we don't know what's really true and what's not true on the internet. And so, so that's always my concern is what sites are legitimate sites and what sites are not. And and so, so that's my number one concern.
Okay.
Yeah, may I jump in here
That's
real quick as well to add on to Jerry's point? I think that also the challenge with the internet is we haven't technically been taught how to use the internet. I think we were given this machine, we were given kind of like a general basis of how the internet should work, but we haven't been giving there hasn't been much education around how to actually use it and how to formulate it, research and all that other stuff. So I think that's how it compares to what your point is,
So
Jerry and Chris.
Joshua, then are you saying that what's on the internet isn't necessarily always true?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that everything on the internet has to have a level of discretion, and the user has to understand how to interpret what they're reading, what they're listening to, what they're absorbing in order to understand what actually is true and what's not true.
Okay. So AI is no different. Thank you for making my point for me. AI is no different. The internet has got all kinds of stuff out there. Some of it's true, some of it's not. Some of it is perspective, right? Some of it might be that, well, I'll give you one. One perspective is that people over 60 years old can't learn AI, right? That might be a perspective that's out there. It might be a perspective that, that you have to be college educated to be able to teach or to be a software developer, right? So that may be a perspective. Somebody puts an opinion out there, and that opinion could be very biased, right? Bias is in our society today, and it manifests itself on the internet, and it also to a certain degree manifests itself in AI, right? So that what kind of bias might we have? We might have age bias, we might have sex bias, we might have gender bias, we might have sexual orientation bias, we might have location bias, right? I live in a suburb of a little suburb or a little enclave in Indianapolis called Beech Grove. Little starter homes after World War II, right? Where, big on the railroad industry was found. Amtrak still got a maintenance yard there. That's where I live. Right. Carmel that may say, well, if you live in Beech Grove, you're just a redneck, right? You may say, well, if you live in Carmel, you're hoity-toity, right? And that bias is out there. And so that's one of the things I want to talk about tomorrow is how do we find that bias? How do we get that? And how do we make sure that what we're doing is not biased, right? And we can never completely hide our biases, but we can certainly take some steps to minimize that so that it doesn't manifest itself in what we do. I mentioned human-centered AI, right? What you were describing, Joshua, is human-centered. Human-centered internet. I go out and when I look at something, I have to look at it and figure out, is it valid or not? Is it true or not? Does it make sense? What's the source on this? Is it some guy sitting in his basement, in his parents' basement? Or is it something you consider factual, right? We in this today in this society, we've got where public news outlets, right, some are considered true and some are considered fake news, depending on whose perspective, right? The right thinks that the rest of the media world is fake. The left, the CNNs, the MS Now, I think they're called, right? ABC, CBS, they're all considered left and they think the right is making stuff up, right? We have to figure it out. And we have to figure out what that bias is and what we're comfortable with. When it comes down to it, you're going to have to figure out what you're comfortable with and what you're comfortable sharing, right? What you're comfortable representing and what you're putting out there. So it's really important that you come into this not just with the idea this is a tool and I'm going to use it, but how to use it, how best to use it. Is it best for you to use it as a, is it a tool to augment you or is it a tool to replace you? That's something you're all going to have to figure out. Okay, I know I'm kind of gone on some tangents here, but so I'm going to jump back to this. I've kind of shown you how to go about this. Again, go out to innopower.ai, sign up if you want to. There's some, it's on us. It doesn't cost you anything. It's part of this class. There's some interesting things that are out there, right? And I want to show you, I showed you the one about how you could go in and talk to an African American, right? I did a class with Tubman University in Liberia. And so I went out and built a chat bot to talk about Liberian copyright and AI law, right? So we can take it, and again, you can take what's publicly available and narrow that focus down to who you believe, right? Who do you believe in this? In this case, when I built this one, I went after the Liberian government, the national government's copyright and AI websites, right? That where they had their laws, they had blogs, everything like that, so that I could provide a chat bot that could answer their questions, because they were asking questions that frankly were somewhat problematic for me to answer about copyright law. I'm not an attorney, right? So I thought, well, let's go ahead and do that. So I built this, right? We can build those kind of things with, we can build those kind of things for specific things. For those of you that are in the Gary region, Michigan City, right? We could build a Michigan copyright law. We could build an Illinois copyright law, to give you those specific things that are comfortable. If you're in education, right, you got different standards based on state. Again, we can build different AI tools based on where we're trying to get to and point them at the right thing, right? Now, there are tools out there you can buy, and we're going to talk about them. You're going to have some opportunities to explore some of them that are out there. Sure, there are people you can go out and get these things, and you can go to, if you're an educator, you can go to magic school. You can go find other things that are experts. We're building this stuff specifically for the under-resourced entrepreneurs, students, teachers, educators. We're building this because we want to give them access and give them something they can trust. There's also an image maker here. I encourage you to play. This is one of the, I use the term time waster. This image maker is one of the great time wasters that I've ever created, right? You can sit down and you'll see over here, you can upload an image. So you can upload an image and it will take it and turn it into it'll turn it into something you want. I have created, there's a Philadelphia Eagles football player, former Colt. He's now a Philadelphia Eagles football player named Kylan Granson. And we built a studio for his foundation, right, to help reading literacy. And I took a picture of him running down the field with, he's a tight end, so he was running down the field with the ball, took a picture of him, uploaded it using this tool and said, take this photo and turn it into a Pixar style image, right? So Pixar, Toy Story, right? You could say Disney, you could say any number of different things and it will do that. You could say create, using this image maker, create a coloring book page for, you know, first through third graders about the importance of looking both ways as they cross the street. I'm making this stuff up as I go, right? But you can create those kind of things, right? Using this, you can suddenly go from, gee, I can't do a side hustle, I'm very limited, to now you can use this and you can create a coloring book, right? That you could upload to Etsy, or you could upload to Teachers Pay Teachers, or you could put it on Amazon, right? Through their book service. You can now do that in a way that you couldn't do it before. My son-in-law created a book, creates a book every year for his family, my granddaughters and my daughter, right? That is about their adventures during that year. Last year was all about my granddaughter was going to turn 2. This year it's going to be about her journey in the terrible 2s and my new granddaughter that was born in August, right? And he generates the whole thing. All the images are generated using a tool like this, right? That he puts into this book to commemorate what they did, what their journey was over that year. You can do those kind of things with this kind of tool. You can create stock photos. You can create cartoons. You can create a cartoon panel. So you can go off and do this. And I encourage you to do this. I encourage you to play with it. As part of your capstone project, you're going to need to be able to create a cover for your book, or a cover for your proposal, or some images inside the proposal, right? This is one of the requirements that you're going to have to go do. You're going to have to play with it. You're going to have to figure it out. A tool like this puts the fear of God, so to speak, in all these companies that sell stock art or stock images, right? Because now you can go generate one on your own and you don't have to pay anybody for it. Okay, I'm off my soapbox on that. There is also one that we created with our Hoosier AI 1000 master trainer cohort. We actually had them go through and they created a Black community GPT. So I wrote it, I created it, but they are the ones that told me what to do to create this, right? Mm-hmm. So now you can go in and get a different perspective, right? Imagine being able to create one from a Jewish standpoint, or from a Christian standpoint, or from a Muslim standpoint, right? You can create GPTs based on those kind of things, right? Culturally sensitive GPTs. How cool is that? Right? How cool is that to be able to do something like that? To speak in the language that people understand, right? As to me, that this is why it's going to be a game changer, right? You're not going to have to just listen. You're not going to just have to read things based on what, a certain dominant culture overrides everybody else. Now you can go in and you can use the AI to generate things that are more culturally responsible. I think that's pretty cool. Okay. What kind of questions do you have? I'm talking all about our InnoPower.ai studio and not about AI yet. So any questions?
I have a question, Chris. This is Mika. So can we connect this platform to Canva to maybe get final projects? Or how would you,
No, it doesn't connect it? Yeah, Canva doesn't do a good job of providing a interface that we can connect into. So you can't create documents, but you could, if you've got an image you create, for example, you could take your image and you could copy, you could download it and then upload it to Canva. If you've
Okay.
got text, you could go ahead and paste that text into Canva to go ahead and do it and format it there.
Okay, so once we did our image within this platform, we would just download it and then transfer it to do work on our capstone, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And, right, we always want to use and, we want to build on somebody's idea. If you have a Canva paid account, Canva has an AI tool built in. So if you decide you want to use this platform to generate your image, that's great. If you go into Canva and Canva can do it and you want to do it there, that's okay too. Right? I want to be tool agnostic, because the thing you're using today, whatever that might be, pick your tool of choice. It's going to change, right? AI is going to be embedded in it. When I started with word processors years and years ago, it didn't do spell check. Now it does spell check and it does grammar check. For me, who's a C minus English student when I was at Ball State, I did the bare minimum I had to do in English to get out because I hated it. This is wonderful for me. It checks my grammar. It does my spelling. It tells me that I've got conflicting tones, right? So if you want to use Grammarly to help you, if you want to use Canva to help you, feel free, right? It's more about learning how to be inquisitive and how to be inquiring and how to be iterative and incremental, because that's the way things are going to go. Whatever tool we're using today is going to change, right? But what doesn't change is how you approach those tools and how you apply you've got the outcome in mind. What is it I want? Now, what are the tools to get there? You're not picking a tool and saying, here's what I'm going to go do and we'll see where I end up. Other way around. You want to be focused on the outcome. Sorry, I went on my tangent again.
Chris, I have a
Chris.
question for you.
Oh.
So when you say conflicting tones in AI, are you able to set up a prompt within AI that allows you to carry out a special or a specific tone, and whenever you start to conflict that tone or contradict that tone, it gives you like a warning or whatever. Are you able to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So you say it up front, right? You say up front, I would like this to be a encouraging tone, or I would like it to be friendly, or I'd like it to be informative. I would like it to be instructional. I would like it to be empathetic, right? And it will do its best, right? It takes words that it knows me are empathetic, and it will try to use those, right? And so you can have it write it. We're gonna talk on Thursday about who the best prompt engineer is. Does anybody know who the best? Jerry probably knows because she's probably heard me say this, but does anybody know who the best prompt engineer is in the world?
Everyone.
Who?
It's yourself, because you know what you need.
No. Close.
I would
You could
say
say
child, because they're not afraid to ask questions.
not quite. You could say Chris Daly, because I am pretty good, but I'm not the best. The best is the AI itself, right? Asking AI, review this document and tell me what the strengths, the weaknesses are from the perspective of, George Washington Carver, or from the perspective of a New York Times best-selling book editor, or from the perspective of a New York Times best-selling author. Are you going to get two different perspectives? Yeah. review this based on a middle-aged female that lives that's from a Latino background, that lives in Gary, Indiana, or lives in Indianapolis, or lives in Franklin, or wherever, right? You can narrow that focus down and ask it to take that perspective. You're telling it what you want it to do, and it will come back and do that. Review this book to make sure, review this manuscript to make sure, and tell me, is the tone consistent throughout? And what is that tone? To do that, you'd have to go find a book editor, right? And pay him some money. Or find a really good friend. You still may do that. But now you can use ChatGPT, or you can use whatever AI you want to go through and do that for you. As a thought partner, right? You always ask it to make suggestions. Strengths, weaknesses, suggestions. And then it will ask you if you want it to go in and do that for you. And you can say, no, I'll do it. Or you can say, yes, go in and do it, and show me the changes you would make so that I can approve them. Did that help, Joshua?
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else started to speak and had something they wanted to say or contribute.
My question was around like AI and like picking the best one, but you kind of answered it because you said you were agnostic to what we're using to create the capstone.
So for the approach I encourage people to take is this: pick one, right? Pick one and use it and become comfortable with it. And then being agnostic in this class, whatever I'm teaching you should work in every single AI product that you use, because they all work about the same way. Now, some are better than others on certain things. ChatGPT is good for generic stuff, right? Claude is very good when you start talking about software development. Microsoft Copilot is very good if you're in the Microsoft suite of products. Gemini is pretty good at research and development. Notebook LM, which is a fantastic tool you should go look at, is great when you've got a set of fixed documents that you want to narrow the focus on and use to create something. Gamma.app is great at creating PowerPoint slides, right? To the point that it's phenomenal, right? I mean, it's just phenomenal.
So will these different models kind of give you that kind of description of what it does best?
No.
Oh, okay.
You just have to keep up. I did build a tool that, if you're looking at my screen, where is it? There it is. So I update this about once a month. There's one that's which LLM model should I use? And you can go in and describe what it is you're trying to do, and it will tell you what it recommends.
Okay.
But it changes, right? I mean, all these vendors they're trying to be all encompassing. So they all do the same kinds of things, but one's a little bit stronger here than another one based on how the model was trained and what the data is. And then somebody else will come back and they'll make a change and they'll leapfrog them. I am not that particular that I want to find one that's good enough for me to use, because I'm not doing molecular research, for drugs. I'm doing, in general, I'm basically using it to help me craft models around content delivery, strategy, educational tools. And they all pretty well do about the same on that. So I'm agnostic because I think you have to choose ultimately which tool you're comfortable with. But also, when you jump into some of these other tools like Gamma or like HeyGen or some of the Copilot, some of those, when you're jumping into other tools, the skills are all transferable, and that's what I want you to focus on. Because the way you're using it today is different than the way you might use it a year from now, right? So I hope that helped. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch, and I'm going to move into talking about, change the share so that I can get through the brief information I've got about the PowerPoint. So the introductory to AI. Okay. So you're going to see with these slides, and these will be available. Blondly will send out an email. I've already sent her the slides for today. She'll be sending out an email soon, pretty close to when we're done. And it will include these slides. So you don't need to take screenshots and all that. You'll get all that, right? And I won't go through every single slide because I don't like doing that. It's kind of there. If you want to read it, great. If you don't, it's okay too. I'd rather talk through them, right? I'd rather talk through them and have interactive conversations. So hopefully you'll be engaged as we go through and do this. So what is artificial intelligence? So artificial intelligence, in a nutshell, it's a computer program or a series of programs that is trying to simulate how a human thinks, right? Now, it can't do empathy, right? It doesn't have, it doesn't have a relationship with you. It's not something physical that you can touch, but it wants to think like you do. So it's great for doing things like creating content, create strategy, looking at things and providing, recommendations, feedback from it. It's great in helping you perform tasks that are I use the term nonlinear, right? It's great for doing things that there are nuances, right? On the slide, it talks about, it talks about, for example, speech recognition. Speech recognition, how interesting is that? When Alexa came out years ago, seems like forever. When Alexa came out, speech recognition was just one of those things, right? You could talk to it. When I was growing up, that was science fiction, right? You couldn't talk to things and have them just do it. We now have that capability. You now have the capability that you can talk to it. You can talk to it, you can record your voice, and it can simulate your voice. If you give it enough examples, it can simulate it. We've all seen that show up in things like robocalls to donors saying, in Joe Biden's voice, right? Saying, don't vote for me, or things like that. We've seen the deep fakes, right, that come from video, where it will take Tom Cruise's head, right, and it will put it on somebody, and it shows him walking around. You've seen the deep fakes where they'll simulate somebody talking and put words in their mouths, right? All those things are things that come from AI, where it's trying to take what we do and how we think and turn it into physical things. Language translation, right? Not only language translation, but level translation, even within English, right? Within the English language, you could think about it as you've got UK, right? How do they talk in Scotland? How do they talk in Africa? How do they talk in the US? How do they talk in the Southwest versus the Southeast versus the Midwest? Right? We all have different terms and words that we use, even though we're all speaking English, right? It can help us with that. It can help from the standpoint that you can create a video that's translated into a different language. There's a video I'll show later, probably on Thursday, where I'm actually talking in one of the African languages. Now it's me talking, right? And it's my voice, but I can speak English and that's about it, right? I'm envious of anybody who can speak multiple languages, but it's me talking in a different language. So when you think about that, think about having an automatic translation into a home language. Like if we had Spanish speakers here, imagine being able to have Spanish captions going across the screen. Imagine being able to create a video that is in Spanish, right? Is it okay for me to portray myself as being a Spanish speaker? No, right? We'll talk about that in the ethics class. But is it okay if I'm communicating information as part of training or teaching? Is it okay to have it deliver in Spanish with me talking? Yeah, I think so, right? So we'll talk about those things, but imagine the capabilities that we have today that we didn't have even a year ago, right? We'll get into and talk about things like, taking it one step further. I have no shame, right? I'm not embarrassed by my where I am. I'm 64 years old, 64 and a half, gonna be 65 in June. Is it okay for me, from an ethics standpoint, to create a video with an African American with a pure English, right, British accent, represent or selling a product that I might have? Is that okay? Is it okay to use that same person in a training video, right? Those are the things that some of the conflicts that AI will cause for us. How do we represent ourselves? How do we put ourselves out there? What are we willing to do, right? And one of the things you're going to hear me say is this user-focused AI, right, or human-centered AI, is really about that. What are your ethics and what are your values? Because we're in a place where it's the wild, wild west, so to speak, right? There's not a lot of rules. So what is it you want to do? How do you want to represent yourself? That's part of what I want to challenge you with over the course of the next 3 days and as we go forward, right? There are 3 types of intelligence. There's human, traditional, and AI. So what is human, right? Human intelligence is essentially neural networks, right? It's how we learn. I've been watching my granddaughter, who was born in August, till today, right? She's sitting up, she's smiling all of a sudden, she's showing facial expressions, she's learning about, everything she gets a hold of, she tries to stick in her mouth, right? You can see her progression as she learns, right? And she's learning from experience and watching others. That's how humans tend to learn, right? Traditional computing, when we think about that kind of intelligence, that's very much scripted. Even AI today, at its heart, is if then else, right? If you see this, if the user requests this, then do this, else do something different, right? It's very much rule-based. And that's the way computing has been since the dawn of computing back in the 40s and 30s, right? It's very much scripted, rule-based. You have a rule to tell you what to do. It doesn't learn from itself, right? And what AI is really, it's a combination of human intelligence and traditional computing. It can learn, it can start inferring from the data that it's got. but it's also built on top of a set of rules, right? So that's how the computers work. At the end of the day, a computer at its very core is binary. It's either a 1 or a 0, right? And then those ones and zeros translate into, might translate into a byte, and that byte might translate into a piece of code, right? That translates into, it just keeps going up and up and up, right? But at its core, a computer is still a 1 or a 0, right? And then we layer things on top of it. AI kind of bridges between human intelligence and traditional computing. This is more about human intelligence. I'll let you read it. I'm not going to talk about it. Check the time. It's 12:30. Okay. Traditional computing, I talked about it, right? It's binary logic, predefined tasks, scripted, right? You can only do certain things. It can only learn what we tell it to do, right? We tell it what to do. In the past, we had to do that. You had to tell it in a specific language, right? Even today, you've got to know the term. In a lot of cases, you got to know the specific term or where to look to make it do what you want it to do, right? It's better than it was, but it's still complicated. And then artificial intelligence, right? Getting to the point where it's a prediction engine. It's starting to predict what's going to happen. It can infer data, right? It can infer that since I've asked for this type of layout the last 3 times I've asked for something to be done, it anticipates that 4th time I ask it, it's going to be about the same thing, right? It's going to be about the same topic. It's going to infer that when I write things, I write very direct, very much I grew up as a diesel mechanic's son, right? Very grounded, Midwest, down to earth, direct to the point, no BS, right? So when I ask it to write something for me, write an email, it knows what I do, right? It knows how I write things. I've trained it to write the way I want it to, right? The way I do, to represent the true me. So you can use AI to do that, right? You can use it to automate the more mundane things that you've got in your life. I used it today. I had a meeting where I had 6 different chats that were going in this meeting I was going into. There were 6 different chats that are involved in going into this one meeting, right? Plus, I had stuff in a tool called Jira. I'm able with AI to go in and just say, write a summary of everything that's going on and prioritize it as prep for going into this meeting. In the past, I'd had to spend hours doing that to prep for this meeting. Now I just put in a command and it does it in 20 seconds, 30 seconds, right? So it can learn from the data. I can tell it what I'm looking for and it can learn from that. So AI is really bridging that gap. I'm not going to go too much into the history because most of us don't care, but it did start in the 50s, right? I mean, and the reason I presented this evolution of AI is because if you think about it, right, the 80s and 90s were where things got started, where it made it accessible to everyday folks, right? We had word processing. People look at me and go, AI, oh, this, that, and the other, right? I can't learn that. When I graduated from high school, my graduation present before I went off to Ball State was a typewriter. That was the communication tool of the time, right? And things have evolved. I've had to learn to evolve. You're going to have to evolve. I'm lucky because I got 4 or 5 more years maybe to work, more if I want to. But things are going to evolve over the next 10 years. But I'm confident I'll be able to keep up with it. But imagine going back to where I was and look at the journey that has happened in my lifetime. And then think about the journey that's happened in your lifetime, right? We've only had smartphones since 2017, or I'm sorry, 2007, right? Prior to that, we had flip phones. And prior to that, we had bag phones. And prior to that, we had suitcase sized phones, right? Think about where things are going and where they've evolved, right? AI is moving fast and you've got to keep up. What is generative AI? This is all interesting, right? At the end of the day, generative AI means you ask it something and it's going to tell you something. It's not predicting, but it's you ask it, it's going to tell you. So, what is a good recipe to create Cracker Barrel style potato casserole? It'll create a recipe for you, right? Or it'll find something that's pretty close, right? You're asking it in the language that you're comfortable with. If I'm a third grader and I ask it, it's gonna recognize, be able to translate what I'm asking for and give a recipe back to it, right? If I ask it in French, it'll be able to interpret it and understand it. But you're having a conversation instead of talking in the way I used to talk, right? Which is to a computer, which was through programs and through data. Now I can just ask it a question. Not only can I ask it a question by typing in the question, I can talk to it and turn on a feature that says, okay, right? What is a good recipe for Cracker Barrel style potato casserole? And it will come back and it will talk back to me, right? So I don't have to be able to necessarily type things out. If I'm busy, I can ask it. I can ask Alexa, right? Sometimes it causes problems. We went and saw the movie, I think it's called Lightning and Thunder last night, about Neil Diamond, some Neil Diamond impression actors or whatever you want to call them. And we got home this morning, my wife's saying, play Neil Diamond. And it comes up with Neil Diamond's playlist, right? That somebody created on Spotify. She kept asking it different questions and it couldn't figure it out. Kept giving her the same thing, right? So it's not perfect, but yet it's still better than having to go to a computer or go to a screen and trying to figure out. Machine learning is where you go in and you take large amounts of data and you go through and you look for relationships. A pharmaceutical company, for example, will use AI data will use data and put it through machine learning to figure out what the next best recommendation is for somebody that's using a particular drug. So they can go in and understand and predict what's going to happen, right? And what is based on the information that's provided, what's the best recommendation? You still have somebody to look at it, right? But it takes that large amount of data and looks for patterns that we as humans can't see. That we as humans, there's no way we could understand it. If we had all the records in the world, right? If we had all the records of Indianapolis, we couldn't go through and find patterns. It'd take forever, right? Machine learning does that. It goes through and it looks and tries to identify patterns. And it is one of the foundations for generative AI. Deep learning is like a neural network, right? What's a neural network? Anybody know what a neural network is? This is where you take yourself off mute. Okay, I'm gonna call on somebody then. Brett, what's a neural network? How about
How did I know?
Aaron?
How did I know you were going to call on me? Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Looks like I'm up for the grab. What's a neural network? In my own words, huh?
In your own words.
Okay. Well, man, that was deep. Um, Anybody can help me out, or I think the neural network in relations to AI, since we're in this for the purposes of this class, it's basically just, our cells, our nervous system, our brain, what's in our, basically our neurals that's in our thoughts, our consciousness, our consciousness that we were born with, not hallucinations using AI. It's basically our own conscious and our factual information that we want assistance using AI with. I think that's the area or path you were taking, Chris. I'm not sure. You didn't brief me on this.
Oh,
I was
I
gonna
didn't brief
add
you.
to it because
Go
I was
ahead.
like, just based on the word neural, I would just say brain patterns.
Yes,
And
correct.
like how we come up with, because I've noticed like I will find a pattern just by looking at something, even if there isn't. So I'm assuming that it works the same way where it finds pattern with things that maybe don't make sense, like if you just look at it linear, but because it's a neural pattern, it's the different parts that light up and find a pathway. I don't know.
Anybody else want to chime in? I couldn't have said it better myself, right? Neural network is where it's essentially the brain, right? Think about how your brain works, right? You've got different parts of the brain and you've got different nodes that fire, and that's what a neural network is, right? And so you have multiple, you're not just doing things single threaded, you're doing things where you're thinking about a number of different things. That's what a neural network is. It's your brain. But now we take that brain and we put it inside of a computer, right? We take that processing logic and put it inside of a computer. So it takes into account what? Past experiences, looks for patterns, looks for any maybe something that's close that relates to what we're talking about. Um, we are pattern matchers. I wasn't sure where this was going to come in, but we are pattern matchers, right? When we start out, and we put, I'll use my granddaughter. My granddaughter puts something in her mouth that tastes nasty. What's she do? She makes a face, she pulls it out of her mouth, and then next time she goes to stick something in, if she happens to have that thing, she's going to think twice about it, right? Because it putting it in her mouth creates a reaction, right? We are pattern matchers in that we try to find patterns that we're used to. And when somebody presents us with a challenge, we decide what we're going to do. We decide how we're going to react. You reach up and touch a hot stove. What do? What do most people do? They pull their hand back because it burns. They get burnt, right? And no matter how many times it seems like we can tell a young child not to touch the stove, eventually they've got to reach up there and they got to touch that stove and burn their hand, right? And then they learn. That's what I mean by pattern matchers. And that's what AI is. AI is doing the same thing. It's looking for those patterns that we have and those experiences we have, and it turns them into okay, when I see this, this is what I do. What's a really I hope you're doing well, right? When we first started using generative AI, and you'd ask it to write an email for a particular person, it would just start off writing the email. Now it comes back and says, I hope you're doing well, right? It noticed a pattern as we've evolved that people are saying, I hope you're doing well. It notices that's a pattern. It assumes that is a way to start off an email. So that's why it's now prevalent when you ask it to write an email for you, right? So it's looking for those patterns and we're trying to match those. When it doesn't find a match, it looks for something similar, right? So I know that when I touch the stove, I'm going to burn my hand. So when I see a grill, if I feel heat, if I put my hand start to put my hand over it and I feel heat, I go, ooh, I don't want to touch that. It's because that original time I've touched the stove, I haven't touched a grill before, but I know when I feel heat, it might burn me. So I don't do that, right? That's how we use pattern matching. When we talk about AI having a pattern or having hallucinations, right? Or going off the deep end or going on a tangent, what is it doing? It's looking for a pattern that will fit what you've asked it for. And when it doesn't find a pattern, it finds the closest thing it can find. And if it can't find something that's close, it will make it up. Just like we do as humans, right? We figure out, we look at something, we go, holy cow, I don't know what to do in this situation. So I'm going to do something, right? I'm going to do something that I'm comfortable with. Well, that's pattern matching, right? So that's one way hallucination comes up. Like Joshua just said, he mentioned it earlier. That's one way it comes up. What's the other way it comes up? Think of it like your desk, right? You got a clean desk. So you get a piece of paper. I'm going to go old school. You get a piece of paper that's something you got to do, and you put it down. And then you get another piece of paper and you put it down. And you got another piece of paper. And this is similar to that one. So I'm going to stack it over here. And you keep taking these papers until your desk is completely full, right? And then you get one more piece of paper that doesn't fit anything on your desk. What happens? You want to keep it so it bumps off the earliest thing that it can find, right? So it forgets about something you've done earlier, right? And suddenly it starts making other recommendations and things that are off kilter because it lost that key piece of information. Those are the two ways you can have hallucination. It either can't find a pattern and it makes it up, or it just, whatever you're doing, whatever you're working on is bigger than the room that you've got in your desk. And so it bumps something off so it loses a piece of context. So that's how you get hallucinations. And we'll talk tomorrow about how you get around those. Let's see, what else have I got here? We're going to talk, so we talk about different kinds of AI. Narrow AI is where we've got the internet and we narrow it down. We narrow its focus down. We say, we only want you to look at this site. We only want you to look at, InnoPower.ai. That's the site we want to use for our reference, right? So that's narrow AI. We're narrowing the focus. We can narrow it by saying we want to we want to translate this English into Spanish, right? So we're saying, instead of doing any possible translation, we're saying we only want to do from English to Spanish. So that is narrow AI. That's what we're trying to do as we go forward, as we're writing prompts. So there's also natural language processing. You talk to the thing, right? It understands me and it understands you, even though we communicate differently, right? So natural language processing, in my opinion, is a big, big thing. It comes from dictation solutions, right? Early in the PC, around 2010, you came up with there were tools that were out there that you could use to talk, and it would take your language patterns, right, which are translated into electricity, which are translated into store data. It takes those and then it translates it into text, right? Now we can do that in a way where it can respond back to us. We can train it so that it responds back with our own language patterns, right? We can do analysis of conversations and through an automated process, be able to talk back. One of the things that I was mentioning, I'm doing some work, consulting work. I was in a meeting and I turned on AI and it went through and it listened to everything that was said in the meeting. And then I gave it a template of summarize this meeting, and it gave me action items and questions, who was there, and all kinds of stuff that I want defined. I don't have to do that anymore. I used to have to spend hours writing that up after every meeting. I don't have to do that anymore. It can do that for me because it takes that voice, the sound waves coming through from my voice, picks it up, turns it into electronic signals, and then using pattern matching, turns it into text, and then can format the text for me in the way I want it to do and do the analysis on it for me. Imagine that capability, right? We've all experienced Alexa or Siri or whatever's on an Android, right? We've all experienced that. How is that going to help us, right? How is that going to help us? Imagine being able to say, Alexa, call 911. That can, I mean, that's got benefits to us. Imagine somebody that can't see being able to have it translated into and summarized, have text that's in a book translated and summarized for us, or translated, taken from text, or from, I'm sorry, taking a meeting and translating it into text, and then translating it into a different language and then summarizing. Think of the possibilities. What did we have to do, used to have to do? We used to have to go out and hire people to do that. It would take days to get something like that turned around. Now you can do it in a matter of minutes or even seconds. So that it's very, I like where this is going, right? I like that standpoint. The downside to natural language processing is, you know, we've all feared Big Brother's watching us. Well, hey, guess what? Big Brother's listening now, right? It can listen to what we're saying, it can turn it into text, and it can then be used for us or against us, right? So from a privacy standpoint, it changes the dynamics. What are you comfortable with from a privacy standpoint? Tokens. So one of the things we're going to talk about, and I got 8 minutes left, and I'm going to be quick. So 8 minutes. In this 8 minutes, let's talk really quickly about tokens. Tokens are the capital of of AI, right? A token is like, think of it like a dime or a penny, right? So how much does this body of text take up? It takes it's got so many words in it that translate into so many dollars, right? Or so many pennies. So think of it like that. It's the currency that's used for the internet, or for AI. A lot of software products, a lot of AI products talk about credits or talk about tokens, right? They're really talking about their unit of measure that they use to measure how much you're using AI. Is it important? Yeah, it can be, right? Was using Claude the other night, and all of a sudden it came back and said, you've got to wait an hour because you've overrun your subscription limits. I wasn't really monitoring it, right? I didn't really pay attention. Some tools have limits total that you can use in a given period, like a month. And when you run out of them, you got to buy more tokens to be able to use that product, right? It's not unlimited. So tokens are really kind of the currency of the internet. The currency of AI. They're also define how much work we can do. When I was talking about my desk and putting pieces of paper on there, right? Those pieces of paper are broken down in AI into tokens, right? So it has only so much it can keep in its capacity. It's growing every single day. And so, the capacity that can have for the chain of thought that you're working in, but there's still a limit to it, right? So you need to be aware of that. Augmented versus artificial intelligence. This is human. Augmented is human. True artificial intelligence is it does things autonomously. We want to be a combination. We want to use artificial intelligence to do those things that we want it to do, right? Autonomously. But then there are certain things that need to be augmented. We need a human in play. Okay, so that's the end of what I've got prepared for today. What kind of questions do you have?
Chris, this is
Yes.
to me. Got a question. So, earlier you referenced that for Joy's the capstone project, she did a book. Did she do it in that 2-week period, or did she just get started on during that 2-week period, or was she able to? I looked at her book and it's like 120 pages. So was she able to generate 120 pages in a 2-week period?
You can generate 120 pages in a couple hours.
Wow.
Right? So you can generate 120 pages in a couple hours. The question is, are they valid? Are they good? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where it takes longer. She actually worked on it for a while, right? She worked on it. It took her, I mean, she had to go through and do it. She eventually got an editor to come in. Once she got to a certain point, she got it completed. She went through and to take it to the next level. She went in and hired a professional editor to go in and do the work for her to take a, to make whatever changes she needed to make.
Okay.
But her cost was greatly reduced, right? It was greatly reduced because she had already used AI to go in and to identify those things for her. So her cost was greatly reduced. She didn't need to pay as much as she might have if she just sat down and wrote it from scratch, right? When you write, if you ask it to draw up a contract, you don't ask it to draw AI to draw up a contract for you and then just hand it to somebody to sign, right? You use it and then you give it to an attorney, right? Because, and then the attorney and say, I drew up this contract. Can you review it before I send it out, right? What's that do? It's going to take it takes that paralegal out of the issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reducing your costs. Because what's the attorney going to do? The attorney's not going to sit down and draw up the contract. He's going to have a paralegal do that. And you're going to be paying $150 an hour for somebody to go do that. So if you can hand them a document that's pretty close, you're having them review it. You're paying them for their expertise. You're not paying them for the mind-numbing, the labor, right? The mind-numbing part of generating the thing. Now, does that mean that the paralegal is out of a job? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that paralegal's job is going to change from what they're doing today, right? They're going to go through and they're going to take your thing that you generated and they're going to go through and they're going to validate that the citations are correct. They're going to look at it as a cursory review before the attorney and make any changes that need to be made that maybe you didn't think about, right? Because AI is garbage in, garbage out. You don't ask everything perfectly, you're not going to get everything perfectly back. So being focused on human-centered AI, right? You're using AI, and then we're having the attorney and the paralegal look at it for any gaps that we might make. We're not just taking it and sending it out. There's a story about it's more than a story. There's been newspaper articles about paralegals that have used AI and they've used it to develop briefs that have been provided to their attorneys, and the attorneys just take them and ship them on to the court. And the court has gone through in a couple of cases and found out that the citations that were in the brief were made up, right? Going back to Joshua's question about, and his comments about the internet, right? And about hallucinations. It made things up. They didn't bother to check the case law that it was citing, right? And the attorney almost ended up being disbarred. Whose fault is that? Is that AI's fault? No, it's the attorney's, right? They didn't check it. So you want to make sure that you're checking what it gives you. Okay, what other questions do you have? Hey, I finished right at 1 o'clock. So let me talk about next steps. So the next steps are, I'm going to take this video, I'm recording this, and we are going to, it's going to process, it'll take it about an hour to process, and then I've got to download it and then re-upload it to YouTube. In the meantime, Blonley is going to get the summary of this meeting, as well as the slides, which she's already got, and the workbook, and she's going to send you an email with those items. When I bring up the workbook and show you what your homework is, and you can see these are all the things that I might have you do as part of the homework. Let me bring it up and I'll share it. There we go. Okay. Oops, there we go. Okay. So as we go through and look at this, right? I want you to do this. I want you to go in, first of all, and log into innopower.ai and sign yourself up, right? There's no charge to you. I will make it so that you get unlimited access. You can use as much as you want. There are going to be some things that later on I'm going to direct you to in innopower.ai. So go ahead and do that and get that done. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to go through and I want you to do the first 3 pages. Right? The first 3 pages in the workbook are you famous? So what I want you to do is I want you to go in here and you can read where is it? There it is. Okay. I want you to go in and have a conversation with a famous person. And I want you to craft the prompt to do that. And I know we haven't really got into that, right? But I want you to go in and craft the prompt and then and set it up and then have a conversation with the person that you pick, right? It needs to be somebody famous. It can't be my kid who's not famous. It needs to be somebody famous, right? Could be pick your person. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Barack Obama, whoever, right? Somebody that's got a presence. And then go in and have this conversation and answer these questions, right? And there's 3 pages of questions for you to go through and do. When you get done, I want you to send an email to Blonley, and she's going to put her email in the chat for you. I want you to send it to her. She'll also include it in her email to you, right? In the email that you're going to get, she'll include that we want you to do the first 3 pages and her email. We want you to email your response to her. Okay. In the email she sends you as well, it'll have this workbook. We'll have a link again to the playlist in YouTube, and it will have the summary, and it will have a link to innopower.ai. So those are the things we would like for you to do between now and tomorrow. You'll also notice, I should also mention here, she keeps me honest, right? There's also a link that she's put in here a number of times for you to go in and register that you were here today. If you're here, that's the easiest way to get credit for the 6 hours you've been here. If you don't, you're going to get, at some point, we'll give you an email saying, hey, you're short 2 hours. You didn't attend this session. and you're going to have to respond back, hey, I was there, or you're going to have to go out and watch videos, something like that. So it's in your best interest to go ahead and just click that link and let people know, let them know you're there. And the topic for today is, AI fundamentals kickoff and discussion. Any questions? Let me put, just for the sake, I'll put, Blondley, can you put your email in the chat for everybody, please?
Okay, Chris.
Yep.
So, is this little workbook here, when we go and do, it'll probably something that's going to tell us what to do. Do we take the information that we get when we do our queries and type it in here, or when we're getting that information, it automatically comes over?
No, you'll have to type it in. You'll have to type it
Okay.
into an email to send to
Okay.
Blondley. We haven't got this. I haven't got this updated yet to be a PDF that is fillable by you. I need to do, that's one of the things we need to do.
Okay.
So
All right.
just type your responses in to an email and send it to Blondley.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Because I'm on my phone, so it's hard to navigate when you're on your phone. So just for clarity, we go into InnoPower and to access that, what do you call it, workbook, or we're waiting on something from, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce her name, but I can't pronounce
Blondley?
Blondley.
Yeah, her name's Blondley. And
Blondley.
you will receive an email from her that
Okay.
will have the PDF for the workbook. And you can
Okay.
download that, and then you can use it. You'll be able to use it to get you up to the point of the first week of January. And then once we get done with that and we move into the next section, you'll get a different workbook.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then tomorrow, this may not be the right place to ask this. I'm going to be missing. So if we miss a class, we can make those up by listening to tapes or YouTube.
You can make that up by going to YouTube, and Blondley will include the podcast or the playlist link. So if you miss, you'll be able to go, you can go to the same place every day in YouTube, and you can watch, the videos will appear there.
Okay.
It'll take a couple hours after the work, after we're done with the workshop. It'll take a couple hours because of the way YouTube works and what we have. Zoom has to process it, and then we got to download it and then re-upload it.
I get it.
So, but they will be there. And so if you miss, and say you miss on Tuesday, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to watch it Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. You can come and then you can watch it later. Right?
Okay.
And those will be there forever.
Okay. Okay. All right. We just need to make sure that we're in compliance by the time the session is over. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that.
And good recommendation. Brett said attaching the document into GPT, build your own document using the questions given. There you go. So you could upload the workbook and ask in ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using, and ask it to you could ask it to summarize the questions for you and the answers. So let's talk for a minute. I know we're over. Let's talk for a minute about what your prompt would be, what you would input. So what I would input would be, I'm going to type it in the chat so that you've all got it. I would like to have a conversation with, who do I have a conversation with? Theodore Roosevelt. Don't ask me why I picked him. I just was thinking of Mount Rushmore. Okay, so I would like to have a conversation with Theodore Roosevelt. I would like for the conversation to be at a 7th grade level. Right? Now, when you go into Chat GPT and do that, or when you go in and use it, put in that prompt, it will then ask you, it may ask you a couple questions, but then you can start asking it questions and ask it the questions that are in the worksheet. So, are there any other questions before we drop for today? Going once.
No, just wanted to say thanks, Chris, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Right? There's
Absolutely.
nothing better than to have people on the other end. I mean, I've been in classes where there's 2 other people, right? So I love talking about this stuff. I want y'all to don't hesitate to ask questions.
Is this an upgrade from the last class? Some changes? I don't remember this. Unless I missed, that was the class I missed.
I think that may be the class you missed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I did this a little bit later the last class.
Okay. All right.
But I thought this was as I was thinking about the compressed time frame that we've got of only 6 hours of classroom time, I wanted to get you prompting quicker than what I did last time.
Okay. And so that had to have been it because I didn't remember that in the first class.
Yeah, we did do it.
Okay.
And it was one of the things that we do. And by the way, we don't grade these. We just do pass fail. We look to make sure you're putting in good content and that you're trying. That's what I look for. I'm not going to judge. So I'm not here to judge.
Okay. And
Okay.
and Balani's email is going to be, she's going to get this information to us how quickly you said?
Should be I would think it'd be in the next hour.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to speak for her. I don't know what her schedule is.
Mhm.
But should be in the next hour. And then the
Okay.
video will be up there in a couple hours.
Okay. All right. So I can go have lunch.
There you go. That's what I'm going to go do. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? All right. Thank you, everybody, for being engaged and for paying attention and for making this a much enjoyable class. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to talk, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about prompt engineering, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about ethics and bias, my favorite topic.
Yeah,
So
man, I'm gonna miss it. Okay.
I love it. I'll admit if you watch the video, you'll understand why it makes me nervous, but it is one of my favorite classes. So,
well, especially in this age of bots, where so much conversation about bots and what they're doing and shut them, now too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and it's also for me. This is the kind of one of those reflective classes. There's more reflection than there is theory, than there is fact to this. Because I'll start off, not saying too much, but I'll start off with an ethical challenge that I have, and I'm very direct and to the point on that. And it has yet to blow up on me. Could, but has yet to blow up on me. but it's something that we all need to start thinking about. So,
Okay. Okay. I look forward to listening to it. Okay.
yeah, thanks. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and shut her down for today. Look for that email, and I will see everybody tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.